it is 9:02. We might have a few late joiners with us, but to respect everybody's time, we'll get started here today. Just to get us started off, I have a couple housekeeping items. If you could please, in the chat, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and something that you want to learn from today's webinar. Make sure that that it is set to everyone for response. And then just a couple items as reminders as we go throughout the webinar. We will try to answer questions as we go live. So please use the Q&A system in the webinar and then in the chat for comments or ideas. And then as a reminder, we will send out today's session recording and slide deck, as the slide deck does include a lot of links to resources as well. And while everybody is popping their names into the chat and a little bit about what they would like to learn, I just want to do a few introductions of all the presenters today. Myself, I am Maggie Helmer. I am a co-director of the Michigan High School Esports League. With me today is co-director Ryan Casey and Megan Luther. You will be hearing from them later in today's webinar. We also have 3 special guest speakers with us. And to get that started, we're going to say hello to Rick Brady, Unified Champion Schools Director. And then we also have Alpina Mount Morsi Elkona ESD with us as the instructional tech and data specialist and esports coordinator, Ashley O'Connor. She is also on our MHSEL advisory board and helps us guide the league as well. And then from our platform partner, PlayVersus, our Michigan Esports Engagement Manager is Rachel Murray. And just a little bit about who we are. We are hosted by the Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals and the Michigan Association of Student Councils and Honor Society. Our platform partner is PlayVersus. We sometimes get referred to as the MASSP League or the PlayVersus League, but all in all, we are the MHSEL League, and these are the organizations that help make us who we are. I am now going to pass this over to our great co-director, Meg Luther.
Thanks, Maggie. So a little more about who we are and why we're here. Our mission, we want to provide a safe, competitive, and curricular environment to allow students an opportunity to build some critical skill sets, explore vast career paths, and contribute to school culture within an esports community. It's a great environment for students to build all of these skills and foundations. And we aim to be Michigan's elite middle and high school esports league. Few quick facts about MHSEL as we get going here. We usually have 2 seasons per school year, so a fall season and a spring season. We usually follow that semester calendar. And we now have 3 leagues to compete in, all for free. So we do have our high school and middle school leagues, our high school having 15 game titles with divisions within each league. So the breakdown is listed on there, along with middle school having a few less titles, 7 game titles with fall scholastic, so the students can get used to esports world and how that works, and then a spring competitive league. But today we are really honing in on that 3rd category, that Special Olympics Unified, where we have middle and high school divisions to provide a more inclusive environment, so that way all students can really benefit from all of the different things we are trying to provide here. So again, we love some quick facts. For just some numbers for you, we talked about the 15 game titles, but as of spring 2025, we now have 203 schools that are a part of this awesome community with 848 teams. So correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan and Maggie, but we are 5 years out. So just starting from just a handful of teams and schools with 5 years of growth to get to that much involvement really showcases how impactful this community is to our kids. With over almost 4,000 students, we're hoping to get to that number, I hope, this year, but it is our state's largest scholastic esports league. And just to give you an insight to why this is so impactful, we want to share our spring championship video with you all today for you to kind of see why we do a couple in-person events as well, along with that esports connection and providing all these resources for kids. We really like to provide an in-person opportunity for them as well. So I'm going to let the video speak for itself so you can kind of observe all of the students, the parents, the coaches, all of the people involved in why this is so important for our schools.
And hopefully I shared this correctly and you can hear the sound. So give me a thumbs up if it's working. All right, so hopefully you were able to see some of the things Meg mentioned with obviously the excitement. You understand why those numbers have grown so much. Obviously, this webinar is about unified esports, and so we're going to start talking about what that looks like through our partnership with Special Olympics. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of some funding sources from that. We're going to hear from actual coaches that have been doing this work in this unique structure and league. So I appreciate everyone being able to take time to be on the webinar with us. This unified esports is not brand new or anything like that this year. It's been around for a couple of years. It's just been something that we haven't had a lot of participation within Michigan. I think we've had, maybe around 2, 3, 4, 5 schools, somewhere in that really small number. And it would be awesome. We would love to be able to showcase some of these teams and schools that are participating at an in-person event, just like you saw that video, so they can experience some of that excitement and some of that joy of having spectators and just all the camaraderie that comes with being able to host and put on a unique event like that. And so we do have another quick video. I may not play the whole thing, but it's going to talk a little bit about just the power behind offering unified esports at your school from some schools that are already doing it, that have been doing this on the Play Versus platform for a few years now. We still hear it?
My name is Joseph Stewart. I'm a physical education teacher at 721M in downtown Manhattan. Unified Champion Schools provides schools pre-K through university with intentional opportunities to show inclusion within the schools. I didn't know that so many schools around the country had competitive esports teams, and through our Play Versus tournament, there's so many resources that we have to develop coaches. I didn't know that much as a coach about all the different games, running practices, or really anything. So I found a lot of resources, and I realized that esports just fits right into our school's athletics program really well. Special Olympics Unified Sports gives an opportunity for students both with and without intellectual disabilities to play on the same teams and to compete as teammates, as equals. We have our Special Olympics athletes, which are our students with intellectual disabilities, and we have our unified partners, which are our students without intellectual disabilities. Our esports program originally got started in collaboration with the dean of the school. We noticed that it would be a big motivator for our students.
What makes esports unique in our school, students get to show and practice the skills that they are learning, skills like leadership skills, teamwork, problem solving, multitasking, and they can take these skills into the classroom and outside world when they can practice it every day to enrich their lives.
Special Olympics North America reached out and asked if we wanted to try this pilot program, our pilot eSport Play Versus with some of our high school programs. And right away I wanted to jump into it. It's just a great opportunity for the schools, the teams, to see like them come together and play sports shoulder to shoulder was awesome.
I wanted to join because I like playing video games and I like playing with my friends and stuff. So I thought I could play competitive with other players from different states around the world.
I have made new friends, meet new people. It's been an interesting ride so far. We just went from being online to a classroom to a different classroom and somewhere different. It's a good way for everyone to meet each other, good way for people to know more, get to learn about each other, and a good way of people just getting along.
I wanted to join esports because I like games and I think it's fun to try different things. I just like really playing video games, and competing for my school, it's been fun and exciting. I get to learn new things and have a mentor, be by my side while I play.
We had
All right, just for time's sake, I'm going to move it along because I want to hear from Rick and Ashley and Rachel, our guests here today. But hopefully, just a little insight into why this is a powerful opportunity for all students, not just some students. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Rick from Special Olympics Michigan.
Thanks, Ryan. As Ryan and Megan and Maggie have said, my name is Rick Brady. I have the privilege of serving as our director of a Unified Champion Schools team here with Special Olympics Michigan. My experience in this space, I started back when I was in college. I was a unified partner. I've served in coaching capacity, volunteer capacity, and for the last 13 years as staff on the sports side, the community side, and most recently the school space. My family and I, we did just move back from Colorado, where I was working with Special Olympics Colorado for the past 5 years. During that time, it was really exciting. COVID happened and kind of the world shut down, and we looked at how we're kind of providing programming. What does that look like in that space? And I think that's really the time that this esports kind of was able to get the platform that it needed to grow and to kind of make it to the forefront of everybody's priority list, I guess. So during that time, as Thomas mentioned, and a couple folks in that video, we started a Esports Advisory Council. And that Esports Advisory Council, we were really looking at ways that we can grow unified esports nationally, knowing that states can't probably operate independently, just given the number of teams and the format and composition that it takes. So that's where we wound up with certain game titles and landed on a variety of the different offerings that we have here today as we look to kind of expand that space. So during my time with Colorado, I was very fortunate. Colorado, the governor of Colorado is actually a really big gamer. So he was a huge advocate, provided a lot of resources and structure behind it. So CHSAA really kind of took it and ran with it. And CHSAA is the Colorado High School Athletic and Activities Association. The only reason I'm getting into this is just recently, this past year, they were able to sanction Unified Esports as an offering for their high school students as well. So we provided a pivotal role in that. And through the conversations that I've been able to have with Ryan and his team, that's kind of the level that we're looking to take this to here in Michigan too. So my favorite game, NBA 2K has always been my favorite game. Not a competitive game that kind of we really get into. We kind of avoid the sports games for right now, but we'll kind of dive more into the game titles and things like that. So where we're at in Michigan, we had 5 unified teams participate last season. That's really exciting. Great foundation for where we're at, but of course, looking potentially for the growth down the road. We also work a lot with colleges across the state. We have 10 colleges that we partner with across the state called SO colleges. A number of those schools have some type of recreational opportunity. As you all know, esports is growing at the middle school level, at the high school level, and at the collegiate level, especially when you look at the facilities and you look at the resource being provided to those participating. So we're continuously looking at ways that we can build a foundation here in Michigan around our middle schools, around our high schools, around our college programming, and of course around our community side of programming too. So we partner with Special Olympics North America on a annual tournament, and that annual tournament is called the Gaming for Inclusion Tournament. So this traditionally has been 1 or 2 different game titles, and we're going into about year 4 of that competition. And it's a national tournament. This year focuses on Rocket League. So if you have athletes or partners in your buildings that are looking for just a one-off competition, I'll share some more information on that tournament in the next slide, but that would be a great kind of introduction to it all too, as we look to take those baby steps into league play and into working with the MHSEL and our Play Versus partners as well. And then I really like this space because I see a number of folks on this call that I recognize, which is fantastic. And I think you all can attest to sports seem to attract a certain individual, not all the time, but just for the most part. And what I love about esports is it kind of taps into a new person, a new personality and new kind of interests for students that might not necessarily have that kind of sports background or that experience with teamwork and everything that goes along with that. So as we look at unified esports, I'm just really excited about the potential of tapping into a new population of students and engaging them in this opportunity and letting them compete for their school, compete for their community. This slide deck is going to be shared out after, but I also just wanted to include some collateral for schools. We have a landing page that has all of our resources as well as a help center there as well. So you can link those out when these slide decks are shared out as well. Thanks, Brian. And then this is that tournament that I mentioned, the Gaming for Inclusion Tournament. It takes place in September. So registration is coming open. They actually we tap into some of our celebrity ambassadors. And the winners of each bracket of those tournaments actually get to play Rocket League with some of our celebrities as well. So Play Versus serves as our official platform this season for the tournament. And if you have any students, again, I would just encourage them to apply or encourage them to register. There's beginners and advanced brackets. So it's really kind of all-encompassing, open to everybody. But I will kick it back to the team. Thanks so much for partnering with us, and looking forward to sharing a little bit more down the road here.
Thanks so much, Rick. Now we're going to get into a little bit of our nitty-gritty on just how the league is set up. We have 2 seasons, fall and spring. Schools can play in both season or choose one. Each season usually includes a couple weeks of preseason and regular season, and some have a postseason tournament as well. Some of the game titles, just to give you details regarding what is offered for the Special Olympics Unified League. In middle school, we only offer Mario Kart. And for high school, we offer Mario Kart and Rocket League. As a note for Rocket League, students do have to be 13 years or older. Game info, just so that you are aware of how the game structure is set up to create a team. You have 2 Special Olympics players and 2 unified players for Mario Kart. And then for Rocket League, it is 1 Special Olympics and 1 unified player. You can see the different technology pieces that are needed for those games listed there. We will have links to what pieces that you're going to need for technology. I know Meg will touch on that later. And then this is just our match days and leagues that are offered for high school. It's Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then for middle school, games are played on Thursdays. And just a couple of fall important dates that are happening for MHSEL. Obviously, we are already up to the Unified Special Olympics Esports on August 20th. Our preseason starts on September 8th. Our enrollment ends September 19th. That is also the last day of preseason. We highly encourage people to really participate in preseason if at all possible. You're able to work through some of those technology glitches that might happen, so there isn't any issues with forfeiting just because of technology issues that you may run into during your first match or so. We do try to host a required coaches meeting each season, just so that everybody's on the same page for expectations and policies moving forward in the league. We always have a little new coaches connect right after that meeting, just so that if they have any questions as being a new coach for a season, we can touch on those. The regular season does start on September 22nd, and then we go into playoffs in November. I would like to highlight that we have an in-person championship here in Lansing at MSU on December 6th. It will be for high school only this season. We would highly encourage and welcome you to come and attend and just see esports live in person. It's a very different experience than watching students play at school. It's a completely different environment in person, and we would love to have you. And now I believe I'm passing it over to one of our guest speakers, Ashley O'Connor.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come hear our story and my story, and just to kind of get immersed a little bit in what does unified esports look like. So Pied Piper School is where my team is from, and as you can see from the slide, it serves students with cognitive, physical, and developmental disabilities from Alpena, Montmorency, and Alcona counties. Now, an average county in this area, Northeast Michigan, is 35 by 35 miles square. So it's a huge county, and we have about 800 to 900 square miles that we have to cover per county. So our students sometimes get on the bus at 6:15 in the morning to get to school. And so we have a lot going on here. And so distance is going to play a part in my story. A couple things that we do is we have a special education with obviously physical, occupational, and speech therapy. But one thing that I kind of fell and been tuned to is helping students with disabilities transition into real world. And my job is instructional technology and data specialist there. In my pre-life, I was a social studies teacher and a phys ed teacher. And I got into, I became immersed in engagement in technology and assistive technology, and just wanted to focus on how to create a better world for kids using tech. And so at that point, I was more focused on gen ed, but kind of what happened is just by a happenstance, and I'm going to tell you the story of how we even got to where we are in Pied Piper. I'm going to explain to you the process of Pied Piper and what we do there and kind of our future plans. Ryan, if you could click that, let's dive in. And then if you could hit present. Thank you. And just go ahead and go on to the next slide if you could. Thank you. So first off, it always starts with a bad idea, friendship and a fire. And so I was sitting here, and during COVID, I became part of my job as an instructional technology and data specialist to understand current trends of students, whether that's an Instagram trend, a TikTok reel, and to kind of talk to schools about what they should see and what is happening. Well, at one point, Fortnite became quite a big thing on mobile gaming, and so I had to learn how to play Fortnite and also Minecraft for education. So I forced myself to learn how to play Minecraft and understand what Fortnite's like, and I became really obsessed with Fortnite. Well, then COVID hit, and I didn't know what to do. I was isolated. I was playing Fortnite by myself. Well, I finally was allowed to go to the grocery store, and I ran into the lady in the upper left-hand corner. Her name is Carolyn Watts. She was my mentor teacher at Alcona High School when I was 23 and she was 33. And she spent all 25 years at Alcona School. She was a Spanish teacher. And her and I at lunch would play this game called Stupid Zombies. And it was a mobile game, kind of like Angry Birds, where you're this guy who shoots these zombies. And it was a standing game. Well, Carolyn and I always talked about video games. I hadn't seen her since she retired in 2017. And she was one of my best friends. Well, I ran into her at a grocery store, local grocery store. And I said, "What have you been doing since COVID?" And this was 2021. And she looked at me and she said, "Well, I'm kind of embarrassed. I've been playing Fortnite." And I said, "Shut up. I'm playing Fortnite." And so then we compared our stats and how many crowns we have and whatnot and whatever. I said, "Well, do you want to play together?" And she said, "I would love that." So we started playing competitively in tournaments Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we started playing it. Then it became a regular thing on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to midnight. We play almost every week, and our conversations ranged from, and we still play now. Our conversations ranged from what we had for dinner, how our husbands were doing, what the kids are doing, how's her grandson, and her gamer tag is Knittergale because she likes to knit. And so that friendship became more solid throughout COVID. And then my kids, my son and my daughter there, they were little. They were like 9 and 5. And when she didn't get to play with me, I taught them how to play. And I watched their fine motor skills and their strategy skills and all these skills started thinking. And then all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute. Video games are so equitable for everyone. There is not a single piece of video game or a person who cannot ever, ever, ever play video games because of a disability. And I brought that back into my job. And so I contacted our superintendent, Justin Glusing, and I was like, I have this really bad idea. I really want to figure out how we can play esports with our Pied Piper students. So I called up Brian and Maggie and I said, "Hey, I'm Ashley O'Connor. I'm at a center-based school. I don't know what to do here, but what I do know is I think my kids can play video games and I want to help them." And so Ryan and Maggie said, "Actually, we've got this Play VS thing and we've got this unified league and we'll hook you up." And so it took about 6 months to kind of plan. And if you could go next to the next slide, we had to figure out what that looks like. And so I started looking at what esports does for students with special needs. And we ran into a hurdle because I told you about our area and our rural situation. We don't have gen ed students. So I'm like, okay, I need 2 gen ed students with 2 special education students. How am I going to do that? So I contacted Alcona and Alpena Public Schools and I said, "Hey, I got this bad idea." And so they immediately said, "Yes, we'll get on board." Well, Alpena does not have an esports league. So a student his name is Tim. He's a great dude. He's like, "Can I just come join your team as a Pied Piper representative?" And so he actually would come physically to our practices. And then I contacted Alcona Schools, which is about a 35-minute drive at 55 miles an hour south of us. And I said, "What can we do virtually?" So we created a team with Alcona, and then the first year we created also with Tawas, and Tawas is 70 miles from us. So we had a 70-mile span of ranging of 2 esports teams for Mario Kart. And so we talked about this and we got jerseys and everything and we started competing. It started with 4 kids. It's now raised to 6. But how did we gain approval? Well, I had explained to their parents what exactly esports was. And so we had to create a space that not only parents could come support them because it was after school, but it was safe not only for their special needs. Like, for example, I cannot have a normal arena that we all are used to versus that due to epilepsy and seizures and things like that. And so we had to kind of figure out what that looks like. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So what is our planning and infrastructure? I felt personally that Mario Kart would be easier for them because it's just an old school game that we could kind of play. Their parents may have been familiar with it. Rocket League's a little intimidating into society just because people are very unfamiliar with it. And I felt that it was something that we all could relate to. So I did Mario Kart. I picked up a Switch because I didn't know if we were going to connect to TVs or computers at the time. I had no idea. And so I contacted REMC, MySTEM, and the Unified Sports League, and I found some grant funding that REMC provided all the switches, and MySTEM bought the video games. And so then I had to look at our space. So I had to take our students' special needs or any supports that they had. For example, I have one that has epilepsy, so we couldn't have like LED lights. We could not have dark rooms. We could not have any of that. And so I had to kind of design it to where it was more friendly, user-friendly there. Inaccessible for furniture. I have students who kind of struggle a little bit with mobility. And so I couldn't have your standard keyboard or your standard anything like that. So I had to kind of adjust and adapt to those things. Then the other thing, if you are looking into this, and I will tell you right now, you need to know this. If you're network and you're IT, if you guys, so we have a brother-sister internet where we have two companies. And so if one fails, the other one will just pick up our internet. So we're absolutely fine with that. But however, we have them connected as equals. So for example, when the first year we were trying to connect to Mario Kart and our signal would send out, and then our signal that would come back in could be from the other sister internet, and it would firewall it. And we didn't understand that for the whole season. And so we had to, as our IT administrator, not me, that guy, we had to identify primary versus secondary. So make sure you have that when you're updating or changing or getting on leagues. My hotspot on my phone, I literally had to tape my phone to a window to use the hotspot to make a game run. And so that's kind of something to think about. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And so what was our program launch look like? Our program launch, we first did game selection. Obviously, I told you we chose Mario Kart. I recruited the 6 students from Pied Piper School. How I did that, and that's something to think about too, guys. If you don't teach these kids or work with them, like for example, I only see these Pied Piper students prior to esports. I only was visiting there 2 or 3 times because I was in our general education schools, right? And so parents have never met me. I had no relationship with them. So what I did is I hosted 4 Google Meets throughout the year. Like throughout the first 3 months before the season started, they had a QR code that was given to them by the school secretary, and they could get on their phones and they could do a meet and greet with me. And I gave them like a 5-minute spiel of what esports is and why we want to do it with their kids. I probably had 10 to 15 parents throughout those 4. And one was at 8 a.m., one was at 2. I think I did one at 6 p.m. And then I had an in-person one at Pied Piper as well, right after school. And the reason is I would assume that they wanted a connection because again, coming from a traditional high school, I was a volleyball and softball coach. The kids knew who I was, the parents knew who I was. I had an open house. I didn't have that with Pied Piper, so I had to figure that out. And then practice schedule. That's one thing. So ESD funding provides busing, right, for these kids, no matter if they live an hour and a half away or they live 10 minutes away. And that was funding, but this was after school and we could not provide funding for busing. So I had some kids from 60 miles away that wanted to play. Well, so I had to figure out an optimal practice time in order for them to figure out how to get these kids where they need to be with parent permission and parent support. And so that kind of took a little bit. So I went and I pulled the kids who signed up, I pulled their demographics, I pulled their location, I looked at their schedules, and I found one day we could practice and then Wednesdays we could compete. So I only have 1 practice a week. The team culture, that part is important as well. I wanted to have a culture in which the kids felt empowered and it wasn't me leading it. That's the one difference that I felt that's completely different than normal sports. I shouldn't say normal, but traditional physical sports is like I studied softball, I played softball, I know volleyball, I studied the rule book, I taught them strategies, I taught them plays, I taught them formations. With Mario Kart, that's not exactly how it works, right? I trust that the kids know the game as much or better than I do. And so I created a culture where the students had to lead the practice. And what that means is I essentially took a topic. Like for example, one of the topics I did was what's your favorite Mario Kart tool? And I put the tools on a slideshow. And then the kid who loved the shell, he stood up and he talked about why he liked the green shell or the red shell. And then sometimes I would give them a choice where I'd like put things in a hat and say, okay, two versus two, one versus three, a competition, time trials, and they'd pull that out of the hat and they'd all vote on it. And so that way it kind of was empowering to them. And so that way, and then I also trained them to update the games. I trained them to load the games. I trained them to turn on the games. And I trained them to set up our arenas. Our arenas were set up. We used 60-inch TVs on mobile TV carts, almost like old school projector carts. And then we also put the switches, which is with HDMI ports, and we had one long counter with up to 40 feet of Ethernet cables connecting them because the kids wanted to move around if the light was bothering them or it was cold. We actually used a greenhouse workshop area because it was lighter. And then that's how we kind of did it. We didn't really want to create a space where it felt confined, and I want the kids felt comfortable. So that's kind of where the team culture part went. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So district partnerships. Not only did we create Alpena and Alcona schools, but we created a buzz quite around the area of more students wanting to join in on this, to the point where my daughter, she was in 8th grade at the time, she decided to get her girl group together, and we, for the first time in our Pied Piper esports history, had a completely girl group from one school supporting our kids. We entered the Michigan State High School Esports League. We registered the team, scheduled the matches, and then the communication channels between the schools. That was really difficult to do between Alpena Public, who did not have an esports coach. So I was coordinating with a parent. Then I was coordinating with Tawas's esports coach. Then I was coordinating with Kona's esports coach. And then I was coordinating with myself on how to do that. So we had to figure out practice schedules for not only middle school girls, but a high school boy who didn't have a coach. And then two senior high school boys in the year before that were 75 miles away and had jobs. And so it was kind of like sort of a good challenge, but it was overwhelming at times. But we became super close, all the coaches, just because we had to work on that. Go ahead. So this is where it gets really fun. So not only did we increase the school-wide culture and the confidence of my kids, but sitting around looking from a traditional school and not being, I mean, social studies, yes, I had some special needs kids, especially essentially like a decade ago when we were pulling kids from math and kids from ELA, and they would go in different rooms, but social studies did not have that option. So there was times where I had a cerebral palsy, an EI kid, cognitively impaired kid, all within a class of 36, and I'm trying to teach about the Cold War. And so I knew a little bit, but I was never been officially trained on special education except maybe one college class, right? And so I was like, how can I streamline not only what they need and what they've experienced, but how can I make their world a better place? Well, I started doing the research, and Pied Pipers never had a pep assembly before, ever in their life. And I was like, well, we're making a pep assembly. And so I called up Alcona, my girl team, and you'll see them on the right-hand side of this slide. I called up Alcona, my girl team, and I called up Tim, who's the guy in the hat from Alpena in the back. And I said, we're throwing a pep assembly. We're doing it with these kids. And so Alcona schools drove 37 miles with their superintendent, with their esports coach, brought the girls. And the nice thing about this, and I'm going to be pretty vulnerable right now, but my daughter's the oldest child. Her parents are very supportive of her. She gets what she wants. I affectionately call her my broke best friend. She's 14 years old, and she plays 3 sports. She does really well in school. She's student council president. Like she is who she is in a good way. And I asked her to participate in this esports league last year, and she's in 8th grade, so we all know how 8th graders are. And she's like, I don't think so. I'm like, oh, you are. You're going to. And she's like, I don't know these people. And I'm like, you're just going to do it. You're going to do it. And so she's in the back under the R, next to the girl on the left of the red. And so she comes up and I said, Zoe, I said, I want your friends to meet the kids I love. I want you to meet them. Her name's Zoe. And when she got there and she saw the kids and they had cookies and they had pizza together, they had a snack. And she pulled me aside after this pep assembly and she said, Mom, I said, what? She's like, I'm Snapchat friends with Lily. And Lily's one of the girls in Pied Piper. And I said, you are? And she said, yes. And she said, and she gave me a huge hug and she said, thank you. And I said, thank you for what? And she said, thank you for letting me see what you do. And I'm really glad I got to meet those kids. And she started like tearing up. And I was like, yep. I'm like, I can die now. Like, I'm good. Like, I figured it out. Like, I've changed kids' lives, and my daughter understands that there's all kinds of kinds, and she's accepting. And I was just like, we're good. Like, we finished it. And so, as you can see with this Pied Piper pep assembly, I didn't lead it. Those are my special needs students talking on the left, and they got to introduce their friends from Alcona, and all the coaches got together, the superintendents got together, and all the parents were invited, and the entire school was invited to this pep assembly. And so it was nice for everyone to see that. If you can keep going forward, I promise I won't take too much more of the time. So what's next? A couple things. The first year, like I said, we had to figure out coordination of other schools, and that was a whole situation. Even the internet, like the primary, secondary internet, like I was spent after 6 weeks of figuring that out. But then what can we do? How do we grow and how do we improve, right? So the next thing that I'd like to do, and we did, is we established a Twitch channel. And so our special needs grandparents who live in Florida, my students' grandparents are in Florida. I had some kids who had their sisters in grad school in Georgia. We sent out that link and they can watch their kids and their siblings play. That was a big, and so we are now live streaming. That's step two. Step three, I would like a shoutcaster eventually. That's my next thing, but we have to kind of figure that out, and that's what my goal is this year, is either shoutcasting and then more students. This year Lily was my first Pied Piper student who was female, which was kind of cool. And then having the esports team from Alcona be all girls, that was kind of cool. The one thing that I didn't tell you is Knitter Gal and I were featured on a statewide podcast, and it talked about equity in esports. And not only did we talk about the elderly, but we also talked about students with disabilities and then obviously females in esports league. And so the other part, going back to Knitter Gal, and she's only 20 years older than me. She's only 62, but we talked about how can we connect to the community in assisted living homes. And so I would like to, as a part of their transition of my esports teams, I would like to have them go to assisted living homes and actually set up Mario Kart and play with people who live there. And because eventually I'm the Mario Kart generation, right? And in 20 years, I'll be in, 25 years, I could be in assisted living home playing video games. And that's kind of what I want to get the target towards. We also connected with ACC. Alpena Community College is a sister school or I guess a little sister school, a little sibling school to Northwood University. And so they have a track of esports degree. And so you can start your esports degree at ACC and it will funnel right into Northwood, who's been very successful with degrees there. And so we talked with their esports coach there, and we're trying to make some connections. Funding, the big funding guy. What does that look like? Go ahead and click that, Ryan, if you could. This is a rough estimate, as you can see here. The Nintendo Switches, we only needed 2 because, again, Alcona had the Gen Ed players there. So at the time we needed 2 or 3. Right now we're operating with 3, which is not bad. Televisions, I did not get the televisions that were gaming televisions because we're not quite there yet. We just needed some televisions to actually play Mario Kart. And so we found some that were pretty cheap, about $550. During COVID, they had to have some mobile cart TVs built by their custodial staff. So they had these carts laying around. So we did that. We actually started first. I first thought in my head it was like a requirement they had to use the Nintendo Switch controllers, like the Joy-Cons. But what we did is two of my kids requested a single controller to plug in, kind of like an old school like PlayStation 2 one. And so we adapted that. Those were about 20 bucks. We needed a Nintendo Switch game for 59 or $69 back when it was then. And then we did a couple bundles, and then the shoutcasting computers and microphones, those are highlighted yellow because we don't have those yet. Jerseys, like I said, they cost six. We did six jerseys. And then we had a capture card. I do get paid a coaching stipend of 1% of Schedule C. And so that's kind of what the coaching stipend was. The total cost was $5,100. We probably only spent $3,200 maybe the first year to start off. Last year's bill was $680. So it was a front load. And until the games get updated or anything like that, it's not going to cost very much at all. Other than that, that's about all I have to add to it. Like I said, it has completely changed who I am in my life and my passion for helping these students see things and do some things that make them feel as included as they can.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Ashley. Ashley serves on our board of directors as well, and so she has just a strong passion for this, and so that's why we wanted you to be able to hear her story. I can tell you all about it, and Meg and Megan and Rick, but Ashley's the one in the trenches doing the work with the students, and so we love hearing stories like that from schools across our state, and so thank you, Ashley, for sharing. I'm going to turn it over now. Briefly to Rachel Murray, who's from the Play Versus team. So she is the person that you'll probably get connected to when you are ready to jump in at some point potentially this year. She does an awesome job onboarding. And so she's just going to give a real high level quick overview. I know we're up against it for time in terms of just some things to consider as kind of expand on what Ashley mentioned in terms of what it takes to get started. So go ahead, Rachel.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ashley. Holy cow. That was incredible. I love hearing that story. Ashley kind of led right into exactly what I tell schools starting to get their program started. The big three. This is where you got to start. You need your students. Now, you probably know who your athletes are going to be, but those partners, when you're choosing partners, they do not need to be on your school's esports team if you have one. They can be any student, just like Ashley kind of, led up to with her daughter. It can be anyone. And with those students, you can, push them a little bit. Yeah, you're doing this. It's fun. You're doing it. The coach does not need to be a gamer. Ashley is a gamer. She's got a little bit of a leg up, but most of our coaches, even with our non-unified teams, are not gamers. So we try to give you as many resources as possible so that anyone can be a coach, essentially an advisor, and just someone who really wants to support their students. And then the equipment and the IT approval. I'm glad Ashley did talk about some of those hurdles that they had to overcome. School IT networks and just the IT process in a school system is obviously it's intense. And so make friends with your IT person and bring them in at the front of this so that they can help you out. IT people don't like surprises. So bring them in at the start of this. They can help you out. And then some of the equipment stuff as well, Play Versus can help out with too. So we can help provide one switch to your school to get you started, as well as some of those game codes so that some of that cost, I'm so glad that I got to see that budget breakdown. We can kind of help out with a little bit of that. Next slide here. What is Play Versus? So we are the platform that deals with, we schedule, we let coaches choose their team and put them on choose their students, put them on the different teams and organize it that way. We are also the communication piece when it comes to connecting to another school. So our platform is what allows coaches to talk to each other while they're setting up the games so that they can compete against each other. We also write all of the rule books. We have league officials that enforce the rules when we need to. And so we just try to take all of the kind of manual, actual logistic game stuff off of your plate. And so the platform is very easy to understand. We can go to the next slide too, so you can see. We help you manage your matches, you manage your rosters there. There's opportunities to make students captains, and so you can really boost your leadership there as well. And then I think we can go to the next slide. And this is what we ask the coaches do, arrive about an hour before matches, check in your teams, make sure, just like Ashley mentioned, have your students help you out, get all of the equipment set up, get their matches set up, ready to go, the TVs. And then we do require a coach to be with your students as the games are going so that if anything weird happens, we have an adult that is present that we can work with as we need to. And there you can see kind of where that communication piece comes in. And then also our platform is where you log the match results. So after each game, who won, you mark that, and then we take that into our schedule and our standings and so on and so forth. Awesome. When you get this slide deck, you can see the steps to create a coach account. You'll also get my information as well. What I do all day is I meet with coaches, I answer their questions, I help them through this process of getting on the platform and walking them through what they need to do to set up their teams. So I'm here to help, and you'll also have these resources.
Awesome. Thanks,
Ryan, before we dig into why MHSEL, I know that we're tight on time, but we did have a question in the chat about I have special education students in middle school, high school, and after high school. Is there a way to include students after high school?
So you mean like kids that are still getting services that are over 18? Like, is that how I'm reading that correct? I think that's what he means, because yeah, a lot of schools will serve special needs students up to age 26. So is there a cap, Rachel, that you know of for the Unified League in terms of, because of a lot of those kids are over 18 that are still, at school, so to speak?
I don't believe there is a cap. I'm fairly certain that as long as they are still considered a high school student, no issues there.
Okay, that's a good question, Mark. So, and we can try and follow up and see if there's any other information specifically, but as long as they're still a student, we believe they should be able to still participate. So, good question. Awesome. Thanks, Rachel, for being on. Rachel's a great asset for us to get schools added, and so you'll probably be connected with her at some point. Really quickly, MHSEL, we are the largest scholastic league in the state, and I think we do a really good job because we are able to work with, Rachel and Playversus to be able to provide a lot of those resources and support. We have people that are on standby, ready to help answer questions to get you going. We do a lot of really cool events, as you saw in that championship video. Playversus has the official partnerships with all the game publishers to be able to do these games. So we never have to worry about like getting told, oh, wait, you can't play on that game. It's not like copyright necessarily, but that's an easy way to think about it. Because there are others who operate that don't have the permission from a game publisher to run a league or to run a championship, and sometimes they get in trouble. And then as Rachel mentioned, that state-of-the-art dashboard, which does make it really easy to get started. So I think Rick is going to hop back in one more time just to talk about some budget things to expand on what Rachel and Ashley had mentioned already. So go ahead real quick, Rick.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Just really quickly, Ashley showed you her budget. We can help alleviate a lot of those expenses. Schools are eligible to receive up to 2 Nintendo Switch bundles. This is, thanks to our partners at Special Mix North America, as well as Playversus. We can share out kind of how you do that. Linked in here, you'll find general funding and budgeting resources, samples on kind of how to use it. But common ways that we at Special Olympics Michigan can help alleviate some of those funding hurdles. Coach stipends, team uniforms, subscription fees or access to games and online play, unified fitness kits and resources, and then, of course, consoles, controllers, headsets, things along those lines. Email me directly if you have any questions or need any support with funding for some of those resources, and we'll get you all set up, and I can answer some of those questions if they pop up through the chat or offline as well afterwards. But we're here to help support and help remove some of those barriers to participation.
Awesome. Thanks for offering that, Rick, and those links. And so again, people will have your contact information when we send the follow-up as well. So thanks, Rick.
Exactly. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, and then I think Meg is going to take us home here.
All right, thank you. So again, you will receive this slide deck after our webinar, but there are a ton of resource links to walk you through everything Play Versus, everything Unified, everything talking about what happens when you want to create a team, become a coach. So we have all the things that you need here to navigate that as smooth as possible. Again, I know Rachel mentioned this as well, but Play Versus is such a great partner when you're trying to navigate those issues, whether it's lots of tech issues, trying to like really figure out how to connect, how to get back online, how to, if anything happens, there's always support on the platform when you join, as well as what we call our Michigan Super Coaches. So again, all the contact information will be there for you once you receive these slides. If you are near any of the areas or any of the schools you see on the deck, these coaches have been in it for a while, been in this world for quite a bit with us, and we'll be happy to kind of navigate the waters with you as well. Aside from all of those resources we just mentioned, we have more. So if you are not familiar with any of the games mentioned or provided for you, we have kind of a walkthrough for you just to kind of overview what the objective of these games are, what they entail for the kids. If you are unfamiliar, I know myself, I was a Mario Kart kid and a Mario Party kid, but some of the other ones I was like, I need to figure this out. And Play Versus does have a lot of rule books. And when you get matched with teams, there are also match day protocols with how games are set up, what the matches entail with that game. So again, lots of help and resources for you once you join. Just a little addition as well, if you want to learn even more about esports and what it means to match up and have these kids involved. There is a free online course for you to learn more about the esports world through Michigan Virtual, and you will get 2 sketchies for joining that course. So a little perk there as well. But something we like to say as we wrap up here. So again, this is competitive nature. This is something where we like to have healthy competition with the kids, but we like to say with our esports gaming, no matter the results, when students compete, school culture, school environment, that togetherness, that welcoming environment, it always wins. That's always the winner. Why we do this, why we provide this for the kids, it truly speaks for itself. But any other last minute questions for us before we wrap up here? Okay, I'll take the silence as a no, but I know we answered some good ones too in the chat. So thank you for posing those questions for everyone who's joining. But if you want to learn any more, all of us at MHSEL, all of our wonderful guest speakers today who hopped on and joined us, all of our contact information is there for you. We would be more than happy to chat with you. If you have any additional questions, comments, want to make a connection with us, we'd be happy to chat. All right, but with that, thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar, and we hope to be working with you very shortly. Thank you. Have a great school year, everybody.
Yes. Thank you, Rachel, Rick, and Ashley for joining today. Appreciate you taking time.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.